Hello, everyone. My name is Robert Cano. I came to this country when I was about 3 years old with my mom. We are Mexican immigrants. My dad had immigrated here 3 years before us and was able to apply for a working visa, which allowed for him to bring me and my mom over. We came and lived in a small studio. It had a Murphy bed, and I was fascinated by that Murphy bed. I would play with it, bring it up and bring it down. And that's how I came to the United States. My parents did not speak the language. And at one point, they told me, "You're going to go to school and you're going to learn English so you can help us navigate this new country and the customs." I was raised in South Central LA by Slauson and Alameda. And at that time, my parents worked very hard. They used to work 12-hour days. And I remember they saved some money and bought this beautiful house in South Central. It was right after the Watts riots. South Central and the Watts area, there was a lot of white people that lived there, but because of the Watts riot, they fled over to Orange County and they left behind these beautiful houses. My parents bought their first house for about $14,000, and it had a beautiful backyard, front yard, side yards, three-car garage. We had all kinds of fruit trees, lemon trees, kumquat trees, peach trees. It was just a wonderful home to live in. I was raised very strict Pentecostal, so everything was a no-no. We couldn't go to the movies, we couldn't dance, no alcohol, of course. Very, very conservative upbringing. Right around when I was about 5 years old, I started looking at boys differently or men differently. And I knew there was something different about me. I didn't know what that difference was about me, but I remember just girls were okay, but I longed for some deep relationship with boys. And I suppressed that because of my religious upbringing. And when I was going through puberty, it was just no denying that I was clearly attracted to boys more than girls. I remember thinking, well, girls are pretty and they're nicer than boys, but being a boys, I wanted to be around boys. And I was afforded that opportunity because I was a great athlete. I was a great runner, jumper. I joined the LA Sheriff's Baseball League at Roosevelt Park, where I excelled in baseball. And I was always around jocks, which I really enjoyed, obviously. Then in high school, I knew I was really different. It was hard for me to explain or even understand that. There were no gay role models at that time. We're talking late 60s, early 70s. But somehow, some way, I met my clan. I met a group of friends that were gay also. And we became really good friends. And I remember one time I got bullied. My friends got together and they jumped this guy because there was power in numbers. We knew that at a young age. It's like if they go for one of us, then they go for all of us. And it was quite amusing because, at the time there was very popular shows called Kung Fu, and there was another one called Wonder Women. And after school, there was a park right next door to Gage Junior High. And we would go there and we would practice those moves that we would see on TV, those karate moves and the karate chops and the kicks. And and we would do it on each other, and we would, sometimes even hurt each other doing these things. But it taught us, we're teaching each other how to defend ourselves. I remember complaining to a teacher, and they were like, you know, it was just wasn't something that was addressed at the time of being gay and being bullied. It was just not addressed. So we literally had to take those matters into our own hands, and we taught each other how to fight and how to defend each other. I was supposed to go to Huntington Park High School, but my parents moved to Southgate. So I went to Southgate. Then I was in gymnastics, which was wonderful because it was around all these guys, but it was very intimate sometimes, the contacts that we had with each other, helping each other through routines. And I always had to, of course, suppress any feelings or, they're going to find out. At the same time, I was going to church, and I was just a good little Christian boy. I had girlfriends, but it's just not what I wanted. I was 26 years old. By then, I had already graduated from Cal State Long Beach with business finance. I was working for State Farm. I had a good job. I had some money saved up, and my parents were trying to marry me off. At that point, I just couldn't take it anymore. And I told my parents, they were saying, "We'll help you buy a house. You know, we have someone that you might be interested in." And they had it all set up. But at that time, I was already out, not to them, but I was already out to myself. So I was going to the bars in LA and Ripples in Long Beach. But somehow I gravitated more to Long Beach because I just felt it was more of it was a nicer atmosphere, to be quite blunt, than LA. LA was very, look where I'm wearing, look how I look like. So I felt a little bit more comfortable in Long Beach. So I started gravitating toward the bars in Long Beach. So I had made friends, and I was having a good time. So when I came out to my parents, they said, "You have to leave the house." And I said, "Why?" Their reasoning was, "Well, because we have three younger kids and we don't want you influencing them." Mind you, that my brothers and sisters are like 8 to 10 years, 12 years younger than I am. And I said to them, "Well, that's very interesting because I have helped you raise these children. I have bathed them. I have clothed them. I have changed their diapers. I have fed them. I've done everything for them. And I've never been a negative influence on them. You know, I was a straight A student. I got scholarships to college. I graduated from college. All I've tried to do is to be a positive role model to them. And all of a sudden, I'm a negative role model." And I said, "I don't understand it, but could you give me, 2, 3 months to find a place?" And they said, "Fine." It was a very sad period for me because, mind you, not only were they my parents, they were my best friends. Had come here to this country. We have gone through so many challenges that life had thrown in us, and we were thriving. We were doing well. And then for them to just say, "You have to leave," it was very, very heartbreaking for me, to say the least. I called my friend Derek, who was my best friend, and I said, "Hey, Derek, do you know of anybody who's looking for a roommate?" And he said, "Yes, I need a roommate because Elio was very ill from AIDS, and he was Brazilian, and he wanted to move to Brazil to be with his family." So he told me about this situation. And of course, I was very saddened by it. It was really interesting because when I moved here to Long Beach, the first thing I looked for was a church. And I went to Christ Chapel, a non denominational Christ affirming church that accepts everyone. And I remember the first time I walked in there, all I did was just cry and cry and cry and cry. So, needless to say, once I had my church family, I knew I was going to be okay. But there was still a lot of rage and resentment and hurt, quite frankly, from my family. It was just very hurtful. And right there and then, I decided to turn that rage and resentment and hurt into something positive. It was right around early 90s, and a lot of my friends were getting sick with AIDS, and a lot of them were dying. We didn't have really places for them to be taken care of, and we were actually fighting to get them places. I'll give you an example. General Hospital in LA, I think, had 10 beds for the county of LA, and there was literally thousands of people who didn't have where to go. They were going to St. Mary's to die. I became an expert in making chicken soup, and I would go take chicken soup to them. And it was a very dark period, a very sad period, because, these were guys that I had come up out with, and all of a sudden they were all dying. To add to that, it was the challenge of the media. The media was saying so many bad things about us that, they were treating us like lepers, don't touch a gay person, don't get near a gay person. So it was a very challenging time, a very sad time, a very dark time. And I had a group of friends, and we would get together in my tiny little apartment and watch movies and critique films. And we saw that a lot of the images out there were very negative images of the gay community. At that time, it was 1993, I went to the LGBTQ march in Washington, D.C., to march for more funding for AIDS and just to bring more awareness of our community. And while I was there at the March, Washington, D.C. LGBTQ March, there was a film festival going on. And I went to this film festival and it was wonderful. There were all these positive images of us being shown in this wonderful film festival. So I came back with that energy and I presented that information to the Long Beach Center and to the board. And I said, we have a theater here right next to us, the Art Theater. It's right next to the Long Beach Gay and Lesbian Center. And I said, can you guys give us some funds, or can we do a fundraiser to have a Long Beach LGBTQ film festival? So I went next door to the Art Theater and they were like, well, wait a minute, what kind of films are you going to show? Are you going to show porn or whatever? They had no concept of what's going on. And I said, no, they're going to be films about our LGBT community that shows us in a positive ways. And the owner back then was Howard Lynn. He says, well, come back to me where you're a little bit more established. So we looked all over town for a theater and nobody would take us. And I had just graduated from Cal State Long Beach, but one of our board members that we created for the film festival had connections. So he got us in the small auditorium, which seated about 200 people. And, it was very old fashioned. We put up flyers all over town, painted, gay film festival at Cal State Long Beach. And the small auditorium seated about 200 people. And it had a beautiful pool and reception area. And we went to a lot of the local businesses and they gave us wine. It's going to be a wine and cheese reception and all kinds of goodies and stuff. So, the film festival was going to start. And I think we were starting like at 7:00. And we were all there with my friends, volunteers. And it was about 6:00 and nobody had shown up. And it was like 6:30 and people were starting to trickle in. And we were thinking, wow, is anybody going to show up? Well, right about 6:45, about 500 people showed up. And we were like, wow, what are we going to do? So this theater only seated 200 people. So I quickly made the decision. I said, okay, so after this screening, we're going to add another screening. So if you're here and you don't have tickets, just go next door to the pool reception. We have plenty of wine and cheese, free wine and cheese for everyone. And to our surprise, everybody stayed and the theater still filled up. We still had some, 50 or something people. So we had to add a third showing. So right then and there, we knew that we had something going on, something special. And the board of Long Beach was, obviously very, very happy that so many people in the community had shown up. This year, we're celebrating our 30th year of the film festival. I'm very proud of that this film festival has shown so many different LGBTQ voices from all over this world. We have shown over 500 films from 50 different countries. We were one of the first film festivals to go online when the pandemic hit. And I remember just getting these emails from people from all over the world, from Germany, from South Africa, from Brazil, saying, boy, we're really enjoying our film festival. So that was a really proud moment for our community that this local film festival literally went global. And I'm very proud of that accomplishment. Last year, I received a wonderful award. I was inducted into the Harvey Milk Wall of Fame here in Long Beach, and that was a wonderful honor for me. I want to end by talking those LGBTQ people who are maybe struggling with their sexuality. Growing up, I didn't understand what that difference in me was. I always felt different. I felt like I was a round circle trying to be inserted into a square peg. But once I started owning that difference made me special. And it was that specialness that helped me to contribute to society. So if you feel different, if you feel unheard, if you feel unseen, there's no one like you. There will never be anyone like you. So embrace that otherness, that different feeling, because that is what makes you special. I know that once I started embracing that otherness in me, uh, I was so much more happier. Felt so much freer to be who I was and to be able to contribute to society. So own who you are and be proud of who you are, because that's what makes you special.